When a ruthless biker gang crosses paths with Mike Tyson and his beloved Rottweiler, Maximus, a simple walk turns into a high-stakes battle for justice. In the gritty streets of Steelville, witness the legendary boxer's fight to protect his canine companion and bring down a dangerous criminal ring, proving that no one messes with a man's best friend. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and write in the comments what city you were from. In the gritty, unforgiving streets of Steelville, a city where the air was thick with the scent of industry and the echo of distant machinery, a drama was about to unfold. The city was a labyrinth of towering factories and grimy alleyways, a place where only the strong survived. Amidst this urban jungle, a film crew was setting up for the day's shoot of Iron Fury, a high-octane action movie starring none other than the legendary Mike Tyson. The set was a bustling hive of activity, with camera equipment scattered across the concrete expanse like mechanical sentinels. Cables snaked across the ground, and the air was filled with the cacophony of voices and the distant hum of the city. The director, a stern man named Victor, barked orders through a megaphone, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. "All right, folks, that's a wrap for this scene. We'll take a 1-hour lunch break and meet back here for the next shoot," Victor announced, his words met with a collective sigh of relief from the crew. They had been working tirelessly since dawn, and the promise of a break was a welcome respite. As the crew began to disperse, their voices filled with excited chatter about lunch plans, a group gathered near the catering truck. "Hey, Mike," one of them called out, "we're heading to that new burger joint on Steel Avenue. Want to join us?" Mike Tyson turned towards the voice, his powerful frame exuding an aura of strength and confidence. His eyes, however, were drawn to Maximus, a majestic Rottweiler who had been featuring in their scenes. The dog stood panting heavily in the heat, his tongue lolling out as he sought relief from the oppressive temperature. "You guys go ahead," Mike replied, his deep voice resonating with authority. "I think I'll take care of our four-legged friend here and give him a walk. He looks like he could use it." The dog keeper, a lanky man named Samuel, stepped forward, his clipboard tucked under his arm. "That's all right, Mr. Tyson. I can take care of Maximus. It's my job after all," he said, his voice slightly hesitant in the presence of the legendary boxer. Mike held up a hand, his expression earnest. "I'd like to do it if that's okay. It'll help me bond with him for our upcoming scenes." He paused, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "Plus, I've always been curious about what it's like to own a dog, even if it's just for a short while." Samuel hesitated, his brow furrowing slightly. Mike quickly added, "Don't worry, we won't go far. I'll make sure he gets a snack and something to drink after a moment's consideration." Samuel nodded. "All right, Mr. Tyson, just be careful. Maximus is a sweetheart, but he can be a handful sometimes." With the dog keeper's approval secured, Mike set about preparing for their walk. Samuel handed him a sturdy leash, a handful of plastic bags for waste collection, and a collapsible silicone water container. Mike carefully secured the leash to Maximus's collar, his movements gentle, yet deliberate. He tucked the other items into the pockets of his leather jacket, patting them to ensure they were secure. Kneeling down to Maximus's level, Mike spoke in a warm, friendly tone. "Are you up for a walk, Maximus? Are you thirsty? Let's find a quiet place to rest." Maximus's tail wagged enthusiastically in response, his earlier signs of discomfort momentarily forgotten in the face of Mike's attention. "I know you're thirsty," Mike continued, noting the dog's continued panting. "Let's find you a water fountain. I'm sorry I don't have my water with me today." Standing up, Mike turned to the remaining crew members. "See you all in an hour," he called out, giving a small wave. With that, He gently tugged on Maximus's leash, and the unlikely pair set off into the streets of Steelville, leaving behind the controlled chaos of the film set for the unpredictable adventure that awaited them. As Mike and Maximus made their way through the sun-drenched streets, the midday heat reflecting off the pavement in shimmering waves, Maximus's panting had intensified. His need for water was becoming more urgent with each passing minute. Mike's eyes scanned the surroundings, searching for any sign of a public water fountain or a dog-friendly establishment. As they turned a corner, an imposing structure came into view. The sign above the door read, "The Iron Forge," its weathered letters suggesting a long-standing presence in the neighborhood. The unmistakable rumble of motorcycles filled the air, and a row of gleaming bikes stood parked across the entrance like sentinels guarding a fortress. Mike's eyes narrowed as he took in the scene, his grip on Maximus's leash tightening instinctively. The biker bar exuded an aura of toughness and barely contained aggression, a stark contrast to the trendy cafes and boutiques that dominated most of Steelville. Just as Mike was considering moving on, a glint of metal caught his eye. There, nestled between two parked motorcycles, stood a public water fountain. Relief washed over him as he guided Maximus towards it. With practiced ease, Mike retrieved the collapsible container from his pocket, pushed the silicone sides out, forming a makeshift bowl, and filled it with cool water from the fountain. As Maximus lapped eagerly at the water, Mike stepped aside, allowing another patron, a burly man with tattoos snaking up his arms, to use the fountain. While Maximus drank, Mike took the opportunity to observe the steady stream of patrons entering and exiting the bar. Despite their similar attire, leather jackets, worn jeans, and heavy boots, their demeanors varied widely. Some swaggered in with cocky grins, while others moved with a wary alertness, their eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. To Mike's surprise, several of the bikers acknowledged Maximus with unexpected warmth. The tattooed man who had used the fountain after them paused, a smile softening his weathered features. "Nice Rottweiler you've got there," he commented, his voice gravelly but friendly. "People often misjudge them, you know. Kind of like they do with us bikers. Loyal to a fault, both of them, if you treat them right." Mike nodded, appreciating the man's insight. "You're right about that," he replied. "There's often more than meets the eye." As they continued their conversation, a waitress emerged from the bar and took her place behind the hostess stand at the entrance. Her apron was slightly stained and crumpled, and she looked tired, but her face lit up when she saw Maximus. "Oh, what a handsome boy!" she exclaimed, approaching them. She knelt down, offering her hand for Maximus to sniff. The dog responded with a gentle lick, his tail wagging. The waitress laughed, scratching behind his ears. "He's such a good boy," she said, then leaned in towards Mike, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Kinder than half the men inside, I'd wager," she chuckled at her own joke. Mike smiled in response, appreciating her light-hearted demeanor. He emptied the remaining water from the bowl, folded the silicone container, and tucked it back into his pocket. "Thanks for the warm welcome," he said, giving her a friendly wave as he prepared to continue their walk. As they moved away from the bar's vicinity, Mike's ears picked up the sound of raised voices. He turned to see the same waitress now engaged in a heated exchange with a group of 5 bikers. Her posture was defensive, but her voice was firm as she stood her ground. "I told you yesterday, your gang's not welcome here anymore," she was saying, her words carrying clearly across the parking lot. "After what happened last time, the boss was clear. You're banned." The bikers towered over her, their faces twisted with anger. One of them, a hulking man with a shaved head, took a menacing step forward. "Move aside, sweetheart," he growled, or we'll move you ourselves." The situation was escalating quickly. Mike hesitated, torn between the desire to help and his responsibility to keep Maximus safe. Just as he was considering intervening, a group of other bikers emerged from the bus. They quickly positioned themselves around the waitress, forming a protective barrier between her and the troublemakers. "You heard the lady," one of them said, his voice low and dangerous. "Time for you to leave." Recognizing the potential for violence and mindful of his promise to the dog keeper, Mike decided it was time to make a strategic retreat. He quietly led Maximus away from the scene, not wanting to draw attention to themselves as they walked. Mike couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and unease. The confrontation at the bar had revealed an undercurrent of tension in the neighborhood, one that he hoped wouldn't impact the rest of their outing. After walking several blocks away from the tense scene at the Iron Forge, Mike and Maximus found themselves in a more tranquil part of the neighborhood. The streets here were lined with trees, their leaves providing welcome shade from the relentless sun. As they rounded a corner, a quaint cafe came into view. Its outdoor seating area was a haven of calm in the bustling city. The cafe's patio was spacious and inviting, with wrought iron tables and chairs scattered beneath a canopy of string lights that crisscrossed overhead. Even in the daytime, the lights added a touch of whimsy to the scene. A chalkboard sign near the entrance proclaimed the day's specials in colorful, artistic lettering. Mike paused, considering their options. The shaded patio seemed like the perfect spot to rest and grab a bite to eat while keeping Maximus comfortable. Making his decision, he approached one of the tables, carefully removing Maximus's leash with practiced ease. Mike settled into one of the chairs, then pulled an extra seat alongside his own. He patted the seat, inviting Maximus up. "Come on, boy," he said softly. "You've earned a rest." Maximus didn't need to be told twice. With surprising grace for his size, the Rottweiler jumped up onto the chair, settling himself comfortably. His well-behaved demeanor drew admiring glances from a few nearby patrons, who smiled at the furry friend as Mike was getting comfortable. A waitress approached their table, her name tag identifying her as Maggie. She carried herself with the easy confidence of someone who truly enjoyed their job. "Good afternoon," she greeted them warmly, her professional demeanor softening as she noticed Maximus. "Oh, aren't you a handsome fellow?" she added, addressing the dog directly. Mike smiled, appreciating her friendly attitude. "He certainly is," he agreed. "I hope it's all right that he's up here with me." Maggie waved off his concern. "As long as he's well behaved, we're happy to have him. Now, what can I get for you today?" Mike considered for a moment. "I'll have a coffee and a steak sandwich, please. And could I get an additional unsalted steak portion for my friend here?" He gestured towards Maximus, who perked up at the mention of food. "Of course," Maggie said, jotting down the order efficiently. "One coffee, one steak sandwich, and a special order for the distinguished gentleman," she said with a wink towards Maximus. "I'll have that right out for you." As Maggie headed back inside to place their order, Mike settled in to wait. He pulled out his script from an inner pocket of his jacket, spreading it out on the table. While Maximus lounged contentedly beside him, Mike alternated between reviewing his lines and giving Maximus a gentle pat, dividing his attention between work and his canine companion. "Just a little longer, Maximus," he murmured, rubbing the dog's head affectionately. "Food's coming soon." True to her word, Maggie returned shortly with their order. "Here's your coffee," she said, placing the cup in front of Mike. "The kitchen is just finishing up your steak and your friend's special order. It'll be out in just a moment." Mike thanked her, as the aroma of freshly brewed coffee roused him from his haze, making his stomach growl. Just as he was about to take a sip, a nearby commotion shattered the peaceful atmosphere. A burly man in a biker vest was passing their table, his face twisted in a sneer. "Filthy animals," he muttered loud enough for Mike to hear, "sitting at the table like they're people." Before Mike could react, the man's boot lashed out, catching Maximus in the side. The dog let out a pained whimper that quickly turned into defensive barking, drawing the attention of everyone on the patio. In an instant, the peaceful scene had transformed into one of conflict, with Maximus's distressed barking serving as a stark reminder of how quickly situations could change. Mike's muscles tensed, his relaxed demeanor evaporating as he prepared to confront this unexpected threat. Mike's reaction was instantaneous. He sprang to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the patio floor, his body taut with anger, his eyes blazing as he confronted the biker. The sudden movement drew the attention of everyone on the patio, creating a palpable tension in the air. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Mike demanded, his voice low and dangerous. He positioned himself between Maximus and the aggressor, his protective instinct in full force. The biker, momentarily taken aback by Mike's swift response, took a step back from Maximus's growling, but maintained his aggressive stance. He spat on the ground, his face contorted with disgust. "Control your beast," he snarled. "How dare it show its teeth to a man?" Mike's hand found its way to Maximus's back, his touch gentle but firm, helping to calm the agitated dog. The contrast between Mike's soothing presence and the biker's hostility was stark. "Maximus only reacts to threats," Mike said, his voice steady despite his anger. "You're the one who provoked him. He's never hurt anyone unless they hurt him first." The biker's face twisted into a mocking sneer. "Coward, dog, coward owner," he taunted, his words dripping with contempt. For a brief moment, Mike's composure slipped. His hand shot out, grabbing the front of the biker's vest. The crowd around them gasped, the tension ratcheting up another notch. But just as quickly as it had happened, Mike caught himself. He was acutely aware of the watching crowd, of Maggie's worried face as she approached with their food. Mike released his grip on the vest, taking a deep breath to center himself. The biker, sensing Mike's restraint, seized the moment to make his threat. "You'll pay for this," he growled, dusting off the spot where Mike had grabbed him. "Both of you." With a final sneer, he turned and walked away, his heavy boots thudding against the patio floor. As the biker retreated, Mike's trained actor's eye couldn't help but notice details about his appearance. The vest the man wore bore a distinctive insignia, a snarling tiger with extended claws. It was the same design he had seen on the troublemakers outside the Iron Forge earlier. The connection sent a chill down his spine, but he pushed the thought aside for the moment. Mike turned his attention back to Maximus, checking the dog over for any signs of injury. Finding none, he let out a sigh of relief. The smell of the freshly grilled sandwich pulled him back to reality, reminding him of the purpose of their stop. Maggie approached cautiously, concern etched on her face. "I'm so sorry about that," she said, setting down the plates. "Are you both all right?" Mike nodded, offering her a reassuring smile. "We're fine. I'm sorry for the commotion." Maggie shook her head. "Don't apologize. Those bikers have been harassing our customers for weeks now. This is the first time one has gone after an animal, though." She glanced around nervously, before adding in a lower voice, "The owner's been trying to get more security, but it's not easy." As Maggie excused herself, Mike settled back into his chair, the incident having left him shaken more than he cared to admit. He looked down at his sandwich, suddenly aware of how hungry he was. Perhaps that's why he had reacted so impulsively to the biker's provocation. Maximus, too, seemed to have recovered from the shock, his nose twitching at the scent of the steak, a string of drool forming at the corner of his mouth. Mike couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. "All right, Maximus," he said, reaching for the dog's plate. "Let's enjoy our meal. We've earned it after that excitement." As they ate, Mike found his thoughts drifting back to the biker and his ominous threat. He couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't in today's fast-paced world. It's crucial to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Like Mike Tyson in the story, we must protect the vulnerable and confront injustice with courage and determination. The story teaches us that actions have consequences, and choosing to harm others, whether human or animal, can lead to severe repercussions. It's essential to foster a sense of community where we support each other and work together to create a safer, more compassionate environment. By prioritizing empathy, integrity, and resilience, we can overcome challenges and make a positive impact on the world around us.
If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe Undercover Insights channel.